and grateful. After 1 month, also be able to see each other. You know, this is a very important. Usually, you know, we just always feel for negative things. We don't really for grateful. We have a lot of great things happen for our life. I'm sure you guys also very grateful life. Do you have? Like, you know, like me, I'm now 52 years old. I'm thinking, oh, I have a very great life. Same thing, I'm also homeless. Have you guys homeless? I was homeless. I was eating with the people's leftover, you know, I don't know who the person, just they go to restaurant, so they're looking for any leftover, just drop that, I eat that. I sleep on the people's families, the
corridor. Corridor or alleyway.
Yeah. Therefore, I was homeless like that, maybe 2-3 months. Then, when we also like Sarah, we have not enough to food like the 90s, but our mind is very perfect. When I was a baker, I thought this is best time. I don't feel any bad memories right now. Oh, that time I have very difficult. I couldn't find food. I couldn't find where I'm going to sleep. You know, sometimes I was the homeless person. When the daytime, the business people put the tables on things, then they leave the tables, they go home. Then I sleep under the table. Sometimes the police come, they kick out us. Then I have no place to go. But, you know, I don't have any bad, you know, feelings to some memories. Oh, that time terrible happened there. But I don't know, it's very grateful. Yeah, I'm thinking about that, you know, we have also difficult time. We can say it's a difficult time, but I don't feel a bit bad. Then, you know, I'm able to come to Sarah to study, able to meet the great teachers. And now I'm in the US. One of my friend, he said, we are a very lucky person, one hand, because we born the perfect human rebirth, also especially with the Tibetan family's house. Even that we also be able to become monk, then also we also doesn't have to stay there, you know, controlled by, you know, some communist government. We're able to come India, we're able to receive a lot of teachings. Then also, after that also, we able to come to US, like everyone's at the top of the world. In other countries, they think like India, Nepal, Tibet, and, you know, China. But in here, we have to deal for always problems. I have problem with my job, I have problem with my husband, I have problem with my wife, I have problem with my family, you know, always just, we hear all the complaints. He said, this is our karma, you know. I don't know what I have to say that, but anyway, you know, I feel very grateful, you know, I have a very good life. I think we have a lot of good memories. Therefore, I always say, just practical things. Don't bring back to old memories. Maybe we have some bad memories, you know, some people 20 years, 30 years before, something happened for me like that. It's already past. It doesn't fix anything right now. Just turn off that. Just kick out. This is very important. Then future, you know, as Buddhism, we say we don't want to think about right now. We have to think about future, special for the future life. Yes, that, but right now we are very sensitive, right? All of us, very sensitive. Just think about the right now. To anything you have, just rejoice. Right? This is very important. Otherwise, we don't know what happened tomorrow. Who knows? Therefore, we don't get, you know, what do you have delicious food, just eat today. Don't accept tomorrow. Who knows if you're able to eat tomorrow? Anyway, like that, this is very practical. We have to just rejoice our life. One day you're able to stay there, just rejoice. Oh, I'm able to today here. Not just bring to all the complaints, sufferings, problems, terrible things. Okay? If you think that, they become your less problem. You got it?
Yes, and I wanted to ask you because, you are saying something that is so important about, letting go of past problems and difficulties. And you had so many difficulties, you were just explaining. So can you just maybe say a little bit more about how you let go?
This is a good question. I just accept. Anything, this is my own experience. If you accept any kind of situation, it's less problem. Because a lot of problems we have to deal with them. We don't accept that. We don't want that. This is someone's fault. We just blame something. Therefore, we have some excuse. We just accept, then find solution. Then it doesn't matter. Because our get, white hair. Now I think we are everyone's like age maybe over 40s. Like everyone have white hair. I'm just completely white. But we just accept, right? Then it doesn't bother us. If someone says, oh, my hair looks terrible, I'm getting old, I'm aged, then you don't accept. You always worry your hair, you always looking for, oh, here's one, then here's one, and you have to put every week look color because it bothers you. You don't accept, you don't want. If you accept, yeah, it's fine, doesn't matter, it's white, what's color, just, it doesn't bother you. Therefore, any situation is my own experience, you just accept, then no problem. Of course, you have to try to find a solution, but it doesn't bother. Okay? Just try accept. Accept means also, don't misunderstand. Okay, if someone do something bad, I have to accept. Okay, not like that. No. It's good or bad. This is as Buddhism, we say this is my karma. You can good way. This is also a good opportunity to purify my negative karmas. Think that way. Secondly, you hear bad things, you see bad things, you experience bad things. You say, yeah, this is possible. This is samsara. This is no one's perfect. You just accept, then it doesn't bother. Okay? Then technically.
Sorry, Geshe, can I ask a question too?
Okay.
So when you say accepting something, sometimes there's that implication you want to do nothing about it. You say, okay, that's my karma. But the problem is then it doesn't solve the problem. So when you say you accept it, how do you do that?
Like example? Can you give one example?
Oh, I have a grandniece.
Okay.
But he doesn't want to call me grandniece. He calls me brother.
Okay.
And so when he really wanted something, and we couldn't, get it for him, but he wouldn't let it go of it. And I told him, you have to accept that, you don't get everything in your life. I mean, he's trying, and still he couldn't let go of it by accepting it. So eventually, one way or another way, the only way to keep him happy is eventually get it for him. That's what I do. Eventually, I give up. But
it shows he doesn't give up.
Tell him, yeah, you have to accept you're not going to get it.
Yeah.
How can you explain to him in a nice way so he can at least practice it?
Yeah, I think something like that. Maybe just even he really want. He just looking for that. Just let him to think about that. If whatever they want, we just give them. They never stop. They want to more and more. We need to control. Some like kids, something like that, we have to also control. We have to, teach for them. Otherwise, we give them the nervous, satisfy? Satisfy that word. This we have to do control. My experience is something situation for myself, then I have to accept. I'm not saying someone do something me like that. Does it make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Now I'm not talking too much.
So today we're going to talk about compassion and loving kindness.
Boss, it's like that, right?
Is this a topic?
Great compassion, right?
Yes. How do we practice great compassion?
Good. 제가 다 가르나 니제데 아니 다 니제 가르고 니제 콜라다 싸워서 되네 생게데 다 오만 주변나 요레스 오만 주바 가서 장보를 마시고 오만 주변 손주 나서 와 바데 나와트 베소.
So if you really wanted to understand great compassion, you have to read the Entering to the Middle Way by Shantideva. His Holiness taught that, I think, last time. Have you studied the Madhya Mega Avatara? Maybe Snai did it?
And then 오만 공부하러서 인정을 줘도
the Pejinji curious. Clearing the thought of the Middle Way by Lama Tsongkhapa. Have you seen an English version?
Sorry, Chancellor, which text?
Illuminating the Middle Way by the commentary on the Entering to the Middle Way by Chandrakirti, the commentary written by Lama Tsongkhapa.
I think Geshe Tenley is working on a translation which
yes, I heard about it, but I haven't
English
heard it. Yeah, it's published yet. Has it published yet?
Not yet published. The verses were given to us when His Holiness did the teaching last month. So those verses were by Geshe Tenley, the translation. And on it, it said that the rest of the commentary will be available in March. But right now, Geshe Kelsang Wangmo is teaching Entering the Middle Way. And the text we are using is an informal draft of Geshe Tenley's commentary.
Wow, you already got it.
Yeah, apparently, I don't know how. She's teaching it through the Dharma Friends of Israel. It just started last Sunday.
I see.
And yeah.
We're really waiting for that.
Yeah.
제자가 아니 오만 주발라 아니 다 레구추.
There are 10 chapters in that book.
아니 다다 내가 담보 되나라다 샘제 담보 나라야 아니 이제 전부 이제 아니 인정 오 간지진 봐. 이제 같이 줘 간지진 봐. 어떻게 다 손으로. 다대 나도 빠질 때다 가로 자오 도로 빠질 때 인사래.
In that book, Chandrakirti mentions about the great compassion and the nature of the great compassion, how important it is in the first chapter.
제가 남주치라서 배나 안에 배자 가래다나 아니 반 초전 제가 참말한 초전에 야만나 산제도 chancho samala chanzawa. 야만나 잠배야라 chanzawa. 아니 야만나 탐주 잡아라 chanzawa 되는 장자를 봤어. 남주잖아.
When you read the sutras, you usually find the homage. Either the homage is paid to Buddha or Manjushri or to the omniscient one. These three are the major object of our the homage.
아니 오만 주바데 바데 다와트베 담보 여기 좋아져다 인지 전부로 좋아지래. 또 좋아지요 말에.
In the entering to the middle way, Chandrakirti paid homage to the great compassion instead.
제자 저나서티 자와데요 있나 아니 자와나 두자 슈마 근데 저나서 슈마든데 도나슈나 아니 자와라 따들어.
And if you go through the root text, you'll find it.
아니 디나라 강실전이 예외로서 본도 되나 아니 다당가데 저데 로란도면도
It goes something like the seed of all the Buddhas.
와랑단 조조 당보르셔와 아니 강실전이 예외로 도폰송도 사회다나 벨라진의 예링다 롱쇼넬라 멤버다반도 제 대셔 다그 통문지 또 버셔서 단 조조다는 조조 오만집에 조조들레스
The homage in the section on the homage in the middle way, it mentions about how important it is, the great compassion, and the great compassion becomes the seed of all the enlightened beings, and therefore Chandrakirti paid homage to on that, the great compassion.
제다다 니제 대 간제 강사 제기 안에 상마제베 감기 달로 랍진에 같은 개침버레스 다야 람야 샤지고 셈 jel라 제제베 깔라야 안 개침버레스 상 제제베 깔라야 바나 개침버레스 두 송여다 된다 소데
The main point in that verse, Chandrakirti says that great compassion is very important at the beginning and in the middle and at the end of our path to enlightenment.
다 나친게 자 안에 지들어와 님도 상견전의 통오지 상견 샤조 선발렌도지 이제서나 이세멜로 샤조는 자세님 제세래 대야까지 니제가 샘대 아니 대화 안에 다 그러고 그러고 다 가로서야 간제 다 상제 토베라 안에 상제 토베라 다 줄라나면 바레스로와
So Chandrakirti mentioned that great compassion its importance for our liberation from the samsara. It's important for the full enlightenment.
아니 다는 이제 디고라 아니 오마르 첸체만 함지 군두가 가디나 송고요와 디나라야 아니 이제 좀 못해. 대야네 한다 마고바야나 아니 샘제던 또 말이 또 송어리.
And also His Holiness mentioned in the Precious Garland by Nagarjuna that great compassion is really important, and we have to practice it frequently, again and again.
제 장가 아니 단네 니제 첨보 셰요 잠발라 니제 첨보 셰다데 아니 다 대화 첨보 냠래 봐 자진의 셰요 그래서
when we talk about great compassion, usually we do so in the context of a Mahayana teaching.
와 되지. 제가 된데가 아니 샤저 대화 첨보 냠래 받으러 옹보 논보지도 옹보 두 번이요 말이스.
The practitioners of a Mahayana teaching are usually divided into two groups. One is the high intelligent one.
어디 다 되고 다 빼나 니제 첨보 대 빼삼라 잘 빼삼라 빼나 담보 사회도 지바레스 빼나 로토 지바라 사회도 지바. 좋아?
So when we talk about great compassion, we use three metaphors or three examples. The first one is great compassion is like a seed.
다 됐어요. 다 시디 가로 세븐데 요와나 세븐데 영화 잘 께 추데 리메와이나 양고 째토고 말was. 어때도 비치 바레스.
And then the second one, although we have the seed, without having the fertilizer and the water, it wouldn't do anything.
다 세븐 요와치 께 추르 요와인 바나 레버 문제가 걸라이나 단다 소중하고 뭐 맞지나 뭐가 살아가 근데 고야 데벨롭 해마쳐 보면 그래서 아니 데벨 못 받는다 말이지.
And then third one is a great compassion is like a ripening result or the fruit. Although that we provide fertilizer and water without taking good care of it, still you wouldn't find the yield. So in order to do that, you have to make sure you continue taking a good care of it. Once you took a good care of it, then you get a good result. And the great compassion is also like a good result.
아니 담보 나 great compassion 다 가려나 봐나 아니 샤체부지 샘비 니제들라 great compassion라고 그랬어.
So what is great compassion? Great compassion is a compassion motivated by the bodhicitta.
그리고 선바다 그놈 말다
Um,
아주 순세지와
it's
conjoin 말이야.
joined with
Yeah.
great compassion is practices of bodhicitta, the compassion in conjunction with the bodhicitta mind.
맨날 녀라고 절 이제 요요래서 이제 요래서. 심지어 테마발 하면 이제 요와 말이죠.
The hearers, they do have a compassion. They do have amazing compassion.
어제 다 된다고 시면 대다 다 담보 사회에 다 가려서나 아니 지금 다 semche 아니 네가 그 아니 그래 파니까 아니 빠나 좀더 이제다. 이제라 좀더 이제다 단도 이제 니오래.
So when we refer to the great compassion like the seed, it's most important thing is to really wanted to help liberate other sentient beings. That compassion, usually you have two types of compassion. You have compassion that you wanted to abandon the samsara. The other type of compassion is compassion to liberate other sentient beings. And in this, the seed, it's really the intention is to liberate other sentient beings from the samsara.
제자가 아니 다 가래 semche 간대지 봐나. 간제 semche가 뭔데 둥아라 미네 둥아다 제다다 아니 지금 좁아샤베다 좁고건도 삼베 텐데가 끊어수 첨부지 다 연구해서 봤어. 텐데가 다 텐데가 삼도죠. 남중아도 둥아다 자나 쯤으로 삼베죠. 단데 둥아도 좁고건도 삼서더니 인제지 말어.
So great compassion, just like that of the seed, and that compassion has to be really a very strong intention to liberate, to save other sentient beings from suffering or the causes of suffering. And that element is very important for the Mahayana practices. And so that's where it's the seed for helping other sentient beings.
제자가 아니 녀랑게 잘라야나 아니 둥아다 잔데가 아니 이제도 되는데 좀더 이제도 파시 요 말에.
For the hearers and the self-liberators, they do have a compassion, but that compassion is not to save other sentient beings.
제자 단 네게 아니 자와 이제 전부 아니 통다 발전을 가지고 이제도 아니 좀더 이제 예스.
And so great compassion in this context is a compassion to save or help other sentient beings throughout your practices. So that's what we call great compassion.
대대기 이제대 아니 상 제와라 간제 다 세븐도 집발에 간제 간제 로토도 제와라 담보 따위가 세븐도 내지고 세븐도 집발에.
And therefore, this type of compassion is just like a seed for our enlightenment.
어때지? 다야 되는 이제 와지. 다때 여봐야나야 되는 이제 제삼나 야네 마고바야나 야 태와 전부가 아니 지 개비신이라는 tre바야나 뭐 테말라만 롱로 니가 여와연자 아니 지 칠르더라 바레스 이제 제라 제바나 단다 야네한테 섬절미네 대동한테 좀더 야네한 공부 그래스.
Although we do have this great compassion, like that of the seed for our full enlightenment, if we don't continue practices, it will also fall into other sphere. And therefore, it advises that just like the water and fertilizer, which really nurtures that seed, we have to practice that compassion again and again in order to really nurture it.
다 된대게 아니 샤적고 semche 다 상제선반 레버 문사바이바나 단달라이바나 아니 semche 좀더 이제도 슈첨부지 매바이나 상제 되게 장 semche 또 빠드면 줍토 말해서 대자 아니 통다 벌섬도 가시 모르세요.
And then the great compassion is also like a result, the yield. This is because even you attain enlightenment, if we do not continue practice compassion, our activities for the benefit of other sentient beings wouldn't be potent. And therefore, although we attain enlightenment, we have to continue practicing the compassion. So just like the result or the yield, you still have to continue it.
Okay, that day any 이제 뭐 통다 발음 남지 다니에요. 통다 발음도 같이 그래서죠.
So that's why great compassion is very important at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end. And we always say that great compassion is important at the beginning, at the middle, and at the end.
단다 선에처럼 선에 라발라 찌도 싸워도 돼야 돼.
Do you have the root text of the Madhyamaka Avatara?
You mute.
You're muted.
I'm so sorry. I just have the verses.
대다 벌써 담보를 간다. 저저 그 주는 바 찔러도.
So what is the first verse at the homage section? Can you please read it?
I have to go get it. Sorry.
It's okay, you can go. No
Just have to
problem.
open it.
No problem. That's okay. Because I want people can hear that. 담보다 자가 계신도 잡아주는 저발로 chantallos.
The first one is in the Sanskrit. It says homage to Mahakaruna.
아니 되네 디저다 잠비알라 chanta고 자가 간제 자가 계대도 잠비알라 chanta고 들어봤어.
And the second, in the Sanskrit, it paid homage to Manjushri.
아니 되네 바 벽에졌다 니도 상전전 통오제 상제 상조 선발레도 이제선도 예선미불로 상조선도 제선남지 제스. 아니 다 쇼로가 니바다샤.
Lo.
쇼로가 니바다 강시했더니
The second, the Sholaka, the verse, it started the actual homage to the great compassion.
아 니불 돼.
Do.
오데. 오다 디싸와들 다 니제 전부서 싸와드는 마음 거다.
So when we talk about the great compassion, it's starting from that
쇼로가 니바데.
second verse.
강시 전에 예배로서 푼소다 사변단다 벨라친다 이래 봐 롱쇼 내라 멈바다 번지 디셔 다가 터만 이제 또 버샤스 which one fourth with the
What did it?
Oh, that's good 디나 전다다 용도야 이제 전부터 통다 봐서 같이 해서 누에스 이대 봐라.
Can you sense that great compassion is important at the beginning, middle, and at the end from this verse? And compassion alone is accepted to be the seed of a perfect harvest of Buddhahood. The water that nourishes it and the fruit that is long a source of enjoyment.
Oh, 다 지나도 정말 싸워도 되네. 다 싸워도 되다.
So this is the root text referring to the importance of a great compassion.
단 네겐 대세다는 오마 구마라서는 여다. 생간도단다 익차다고 누나 요즘 말이죠. 요 말. 다 오마 구마라서 너는 네 대세도 세워요.
And Lama Tsongkhapa's illumination of the middle way thought, he provided excellent commentary on this verse.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. Yeah, now you can take away. 이게 내가 전화도 받들이 채워야 돼. 전화도 로좀 채삼이었나?
So I basically, provide a short introduction if you wanted to study it.
근데 강음마디 오만 주바 차단 롤습니다. 롤 섬사사다 자사리.
I memorized the entire text of Madhyamaka Avatara, but now also I forgot it. We haven't been reciting it for a long time, and when you don't recite it, then you forget.
다다나 니제에서 된게 통다 받는 거지. 오나 된게 니제다 간데질라나 다 좀더 니제다 레테 바 좀더 니제. 동아제 내외 섬절라 미네 대 동아다 아니 트라와다 나랑이 책은 누구도 나랑은 게 그거도 된게 삼수지르다.
So great compassion, therefore, it's a compassion for all the sentient beings to really help them, to liberate them, to save them from samsara, and saying, in order to free all the sentient beings from samsara, I'm going to free them by myself.
남중 가서 내 섬제들이 동화다 타나 쩌마로 잡아 체지게 됐다 때 동화다 탄대기 니지 들어봤어.
Usually we say may may all sentient beings free from samsara, may sentient beings be free from suffering. But in this context, may I free all sentient beings from suffering. So we have to have this kind of motivation for practicing the great compassion properly.
다 곰장어서 곰잖아 집어와. 다 그게 동화매 동화진나에 섬천라 미니 미사대지 미사대 비기 동화진나데 섬천다 라미. 다대 동화다 trawa대 나라랑 게 제국도 딩게데 나라가 크고도 우선 다대 안에 하는 고마들이 이제.
So what is the practice of great compassion? The practice of the great compassion is to really saying, may I free all sentient beings from samsara, and therefore you really focus that responsibility, saying, I am going to free all the sentient beings from samsara, and this is how we really practice it. This is how we meditate, saying, I wanted to free all sentient beings. I will shoulder all the responsibilities to free all the sentient beings from samsara. So this is what you have to meditate.
제가 딘데데 아니 샤제부터 깨자와나 야나야나 마금나 아니 샤제부터 마 냠드라고 니가 요래서 다 거도 용 거래.
And therefore, once you have generated this bodhicitta mind, if you do not practice it regularly, sometimes we also if we do not practice it regularly, also we lose that spirit.
어디지? 제자가 오다 telling 니지 못해지. 그러고 오다 좀 더니 다대 영화라 맛이 간다 땅념지 맛이 전전 주소 요것마다 용고 대치 발에서 남주 셰다 지발 용고 그래서.
And in order to generate this type of great compassion, we have to practice beginning from equalizing ourselves with others, then recognizing all the sentient beings like my mother, and then thinking about their kindness, then really thinking about paying back their kindness. So this has to be the prerequisite for generating this great compassion.
다대 니제테 다들 니제테 해봐지. 다 배당아도 배나 미섬지 섬다다. 배나 단대가라 또염내도 있으면 미사마나 간지 레다 샘기 다 단대가라 나도 미직 바지 샤요 말서 나도 다뭐 민타마바이나 또염내도 나사 요나 매나 되게 강에 되게 동안 양감이 수치요 말했어.
So when we think about this epidemic, everyone's affected by it. There's no single human beings free from this suffering. All of us are part of it.
나도 가지 너나마다 냐마니가 나올 때고 되게 등하러 왔어. 그만해라 되게 싫어라.
We're all staying at home, and this is a type of suffering that we go through.
제자까지 던지기 섬들라미네 다 던지 동화다 tra와라 체직 tra와다 나라랑 그 제고도 던지가 섬서 슈첨보지 섬로야네 양다 땅와나 고 말도 오마 뚝뚝뚝뚝 저 말토용 거고 대치 봐용 거래. 섬는 저원 로고서 봐.
So if we meditate this every day, that I wanted to free all sentient beings from samsara, I shoulder this responsibility to free all sentient beings from samsara. And if we practice this regularly, and just like churning the milk, often eventually it produces the butter. Likewise, as we continue meditate and contemplate on this thinking, it will generate the bodhicitta mind.
다 던지기 니제테 다 샹접생부죠. 다 문에도 고차로 니중문에도 차로 그러was.
And this type of compassion is becoming the causes for our enlightenment.
던지기 샹접생부죠. 어쨌든 제자 던지기 샹접생도 가디 jel라 제와이나 대지지 니제테 다 니제 첨보스 가도 다 그래 컴파지사 바지 고초서래.
So as soon as we are able to generate this bodhicitta mind, and so that bodhicitta mind is also can be referred as a great compassion.
제대로는 여러 개 jel라변의 섬지 동화다 잔대가 로여다 대나 그래 컴파지도 차고 말했어.
And for the hearers and the self-liberators, they have amazing compassion, but it wouldn't become the great compassion.
제가 단차 나도 단하게지만 나도 단한 내대대 달래도 잡아서 고소지 이제 되어야 돼. 고소 이제 열어서 다 고소 내대대 와래 나도 테라바서들어.
If we think about the Theravada practitioners in Thailand, for example, do they have compassion? Of course they do.
제가 나도 보나 니랑 제라 태매라 이제 말씀은 드리오 말이 이제 열어서 다 이제 첨보에서 다 샹접 생명을 고도라 변나 샹접 생명 대시자다 고도 대시 자가 말이 돼. 고고 말 고야요 말을 그래.
And if we think about the Theravada practitioners, and of course they have a compassion, but then it wouldn't be referred as a great compassion because they do not have the intention to save other sentient beings from samsara.
오야 다 된게 니제 달라야 말아서 숨이어서 말아서 숨.
And this great compassion have three different categories.
오야 다가 봐 대차도 대시작이 다 담보 전화수 단대 값은 점벌리가 강에 샘제가 둥알로 삼로지 다네 된지 샘제다 둥안다 차와라 체지 다 차와다 나랑 체고요 샘베 삼로지 다다 까마치 곰지 잡죠.
So I would like you to meditate on this, and by thinking, I wanted to free all sentient beings from suffering. This 심지에 미주어래.
아 샘제서 다 단대변이 미추보지나 야사랄까. 가서 미어 동아가 가서 다 인생가든 통고여러 봤어.
Yeah. So for these practices, let's just think about human beings. I wanted to free all human beings from suffering, especially this pandemic, suffering.
제가 티나네 단다 미세게 다 담벨리 미삼말라 또요네도 동아 여봤던 가서 샘나 학고고 제란트고 요레스.
And especially we have to pay attention to the sufferings of all the human beings in this pandemic period.
Okay, 두시 다 곰까마치 잡쇼 왔어.
Please meditate on this for 1 minute.
다때 great compassion 곰고다.
We are practicing great compassion, and that's what we do for this meditation.
오야. 다들당가 예와 섬자와 대 이제 대기 밀라 샘전 쌈라 미면 이제라 그래서 단대가 예와 섬여라 봐서.
So I mentioned three types of great compassion. So this is the first one, compassion aimed at a sentient being.
와 대가 안에 샘제 쌈사대 간지 오다 대라 샘제 쌈라 미면 이제라 그래서.
So this is called the compassion just aimed at sentient beings.
제가 대단한 오만 주변하나 요래서 오만 주변하라.
In the Madhyamaka Avatara, it mentions about this type of compassion.
다야 단이지 공부다. 다 삼모단다 된다이메. 된지기 샘제대야 못답에 라지에 봐. 아니 못답아에 봐. 기치기 진로 된지 삼로지 따네. 된지기 샘제 도저야 둥아다 차왕가랑 제고도 삼삼마다 찍바도 삼고 그래서 디가 합복하래 샘제 삼마 못답에 라지에 봐. 진로에 라지에 봐. 대삼도 담고 그래서.
Then the second one, we have to meditate. These sentient beings we just thought about are suffering from the nature of impermanence. That they have this like a changing nature. They constantly go through the changing nature. And by meditating on this,
okay, 다 대가 되고 말인다.
please first go ahead and meditate on this.
담보전에도 못다바 삼아 야보지 땅 샘나 야보진 코나 되네 아니 샘제도 삼아 못다바 라지 바 삼당고 그래서 된데 못다바 라지 샘제 등어와도 등어라 잡아가라 제거도 삼베다 삼당고
First, you contemplate on the nature of impermanence, and then nature of the impermanence. Then thinking the sentient beings are suffering from this nature of impermanence, and therefore I wanted to free them from this nature of impermanence, which causes them suffering.
오야 다 대니제 대말라 아니 출라미미 이제라 그래서 다녀라대
So we call this second type of great compassion practices. It's called great compassion aimed at the Dharma.
다 인제 다 돈다를 가지 추세대 안에 섬제 못다바감 안에 데메 가르 또벨루 셈베게 이제 인자 디스표스라고 그래서
So why do we mention this great compassion aimed at the Dharma? Is because all the sentient beings are caught in this nature of impermanent cycles. As a result, they're experiencing suffering. And we have this intention to free them from this type of suffering. And therefore, we call this compassion aimed at the Dharma.
뭐지 다데 어때요 다 지나도 삼다자 다 소소고 통대가 섬제 참아 파트너 또베 따서뭐 랑인을 저기 말해서 또 많이 돼서 검쇼스
Next, I would like you to meditate that all these sentient beings are imputed. It's undesignated by our mind, but they do not possess the intrinsic nature. Basically, meditating on emptiness.
어제 텐지 랑고는 마티비 아니 샘첸에서 둥아다 타방 가랑기 차그건도 삼베 단지 슈치 못 제바 지검고 그래서 대식 섬다다.
Kuna kisila yangyasuna na.
알레레 텐지가 라지지 마티비 샘첸 둥아리 나베 샘첸에서 아니 둥아다다 타방 가랑기 차그건도 삼베 단지 지검고 그래서
So first
돈이게 따위 섬베고네.
First, we've been meditating that these sentient beings are devoid of intrinsic nature. And now the second meditation following that is, I wanted to free all these sentient beings who are devoid of intrinsic nature. I would like you to contemplate on this now.
어제 다 뒤에 이제 뒤니라 아니 미말라 미미니 이제 다니 다 그랬어.
Mingming
아 미말라 미미니 이제요.
Mingming.
아 미메 때문에 되죠.
Oh, so this type of compassion, where we think about the all sentient beings who are devoid of intrinsic nature, and I wanted to free all the sentient beings who are devoid of intrinsic nature, is called the objectless or objectionless compassion. Do you have a better word for that? Anyone? George or Snai?
Jennifer. Snai. Other words? 간제 다 된다 간제 conjoin with the understand emptiness the compassion. 간제 또뉴토베 혈압지 선배 니지에서로 고고다 나로.
So this is basically compassion conjoined with the emptiness.
제가 탄예 제단 데라 탄예 파르라지나 추에서 가잖아 미멜라 같은 탄예 뭐다 그거 다된로 라모고지 간제 또뉴토베 혈압지 선배 아니 니제텔라 아니 미멜라 미니제스.
The objectionlessness.
Is it non-objectifying?
Yes, non-objectifying or the objectionlessness. Compassion is basically compassion led by emptiness.
Okay, tela mimele minijes. 아니 샘체 마타바다 아나 라차데베 제체데베 동와 텐데 가르게 샘베 안지탈라 아니 출라메 비니제스.
So the second type of compassion, the compassion aimed at Dharma, is basically thinking about the nature of the impermanence and the nature of the substance, like nature of the personlessness, and which is led by the meditation on the nature of impermanence. And when you practice compassion, this is called the compassion aimed at Dharma.
제가 다른 네기 추세된 간도 그 가로 다르마 생 추도 말이다. 시당 감소 요새라 추라지 티추들이죠.
And this, the word Dharma is not referring to Dharma that we practice, but it's more like all phenomena.
Yeah.
So like compassion aimed at all phenomena, in another word.
배낭 아주 다니엘야 안에 폼보라 푸소지 출라 푸소라 출라 그래서 푸소라 때문에 따베 간자테 안에 가로 마타바고 안에 다음에 바토베 루스바다 안에 출라면 비니제 고 따셔 버려서.
And usually, when we talk about the person, which is appeared with the different different aggregates come together, and it's called the person, right? When different aggregates join together, it produces a person, and therefore this person, which is going through the nature of the impermanence. And so we call this either compassion aimed at phenomena. Because when we talk about aggregates or something, we call this phenomena, right? So maybe it's better we mention phenomena rather than Dharma.
Yeah, I think that's better, maybe, yeah. Yes. 아니 다 단대 담아 담보달라 아니 샘제 싸움을 봐서 되고 담에 챙겨 말아 데메 챙겨 말 다지 다 샘제 동아에서 지금 때 동아다 transition로더라 아니 샘제 달라면 비니 예스 오다데 타녀섬 용 거래서.
So the first type is then great compassion aimed just at sentient beings. And this, when we meditate on that, we're not worried about the nature of the impermanence or the selflessness, but we're rather, like thinking about their sufferings.
제가 남주 어자 제가 다 안에 가르나 아니 이제 전보세대 아니 그래 80 컴패션에서 된다 가리인 봐. 대래 나온서 예와 만다고 숨도 어다 되는 말에.
Therefore, now you should have understood what is great compassion, what it meant by great compassion, and what are the different types of the great compassion. You should have, understood that by now.
아니 다 뒤에 용사가 자원으로 가는 거 봐. 시수원이 말와.
And also, you should understand who really mentioned or commented on this.
어제 다 등수 고대 다 단단 조주되든 어머지 조주도 되게는 특 효과가 찜어지면 너 당간도 저라 고음도.
The root a verse which talks about this compassion and the different types of compassion mentioned in the Entering the Middle Way by Shantideva. When we just read the verse, it doesn't really tell us very much, but when we look at it carefully, it tells us a lot.
안 다는 게 단다 아니 뒤 가되고 고마라살로나 고마라나 다 뒤뒤 틀려요 그래서.
And if you read the commentary by Lama Tsongkhapa on the Middle Way, the illuminating the thoughts of the Middle Way, and it really provides a detailed commentary in each word, the root word as well.
아 다나지게 단 주배 란데 다 가서 군디고 소소 당 가서 가데나 될 내 마음보 따가 요송소 아니 텔라야 디나라야 이렇게 됐대요.
And also the other comment by Shantideva himself on this root text, which is mentioned during His Holiness teaching a few days ago. It also have the explanation about this verse.
다 그렇게 한 바지 시소와.
Now you should know what we meant by great compassion.
제가 다 늦어 가르려서나 다 남중하다 랍라네들 로조 제한테 제마다 그 학원은 되게다. 셴바게 거에마다 그 학원은 되게로 가리바 가르치고 말어.
When we study this kind of text at school, we just need to know about it. That's good enough if you know the meaning of it.
다 내려 가르려서는 다 가리 다 수수 때 삼고 그래서 다 곰자네 어주 잡네 곰잡다때 샘 때는 되고 그래서 대전에 그 레버 통고 대마전나 하코어딘 레버 통고 말해.
So for our purpose, just understanding or knowing about the meaning of the verse is not good enough. We really have to contemplate. We have to meditate on this. And as we continue to do that, then we will gain some kind of experiential understanding, a much deeper level of understanding.
남중아도 미메세베 대진 시리즈라기 와서 티가라 미메세 정도 와 특다가 다라래.
And when we recite the mantra of Lama Tsongkhapa, the first verse, the Chenrezig or who is the who has the quality of objectionless compassion. So this is exactly what we meant by the first one.
제장 바바 시리즈 두 적의 니제데 아니 그 바로 컴패션에 아니 미멜에 니제레스 가지 바바 시리즈가 아니 대명에서 똑네 아니 심지 동안도 전대로 지기를 사는 거로.
Sorry, the third one, the third type of great compassion. And so here is saying, Cheresik, you possess a great compassion of objectionless. This is because your compassion has no bound, no boundary, and so on.
제가 나도 내가 고미한테 아니 미멜에 지지도 검사한테 야보요레스. 당보배나 아니 샘제 참아 동반이 걸어서는데 시다. 나 까마카시 이제 돈이 걸어서는 다르와. 돈이 검사해야 됐다. 너도 가지 소소 나와 좀 요 말에 다 삼도 다르. 셴다 이렇게 요 말. 소소 나마 나지. 소소 삼마도 요 말에 삼도 샘 대강라 샤네 되라 돈만이 검사해요.
And therefore, for us, it's very powerful to practice this third type of compassion. Initially, we meditate on emptiness, and then we think about the sentient beings, and thinking these sentient beings, only has appearances. There's no more than just mere appearances. And if you continue do meditation on that, so this is what we meant by practicing emptiness.
담보마다 아니 제금 체내로 텐데 임베 진세다 아니 랑시 마트바지도 삼로다 다들 삼로 따서jel라야 다 그래 타체는 담아라 타제라 타제가 다 간들 소소 나와서 문도 소소 사만이 래 문도 대삼소 대간라 셈바샤니 가세 대통도 싶다다 다대 돈이 곰세.
So when we do this meditation on emptiness, we start with the analytical meditation, thinking about all phenomena are dependent on each other. They, produced by dependent arising. They are devoid of intrinsic nature. And as you continue this analytical meditation, and then you reach to this conclusion that everything is just merely appearances, and they are not exist how we perceive. They are not, exist the way we perceive them. And when you really meditate on that, so this is what we meant by meditation on emptiness.
다 들은 것이 좀 당이다. 그래서 곰거다. 다리 미사도 다가지 자마다 본바도 뎁도 두모야입니다. 샘절입니다. 다 샘제 참아 가지 소소 나나지 소소 삼만지 요 말에서 딜리 삼도 디간라 샘바 샤네 되다스.
And so today the object of our meditation on emptiness is not a vase or not, like a cups, but rather we're looking at the sentient beings and thinking that these sentient beings, they're, like a dependent arising. They're like intrinsic nature. They're devoid of intrinsic nature, and just meditating on that. So this should be our, practice for today.
당보초도 대스 고마. 당아도 대 곰자거든. 사이는 다 초도 소소 곰고 그랬다.
So we do group meditation today, and then from tomorrow I would like you to continue this meditation.
가능 나도 마고마에나 나도 시와 탐지 나도 샘는 저와 쳐는 로다. 나도 샘는 저와 만들어와디 나도 마고네 쳐는데스.
And without meditation, we cannot really make improvement. By merely knowing about emptiness is not good enough. It wouldn't really change us very much. But really to put this in practices, and as we continue to practice it, then change will happen.
제가 말해도 투루다는 고 마고마다 투루다는 말 토양도 왔어.
If you churn milk, it produces butter.
당연히 잘라 가진 누구 좀 폴폴다 안에 고 지금 저만 말아가지고 그런 니바 토양도 와서 아 사진은 고 토양도 대치 바래.
And for certain object, if you keep really massaging it, if you keep really what you call the rubbing, if you keep rubbing, and then it produces different odor and the taste.
나도 채와도 따래. 채와 땡땡 채와 따이. 그래도 하나 건너 봐시게 돼.
If you rub your molar and then smell it, you'll actually smell the taste.
제가 등소도 찍바 찍장아도 곰배나 나주 로종 펜토세데 담보소도 하고 때 곰잡 섬 셈바티카나 저 섬바당 아니 셈나 칼레 칼렌지와 니바다 통고서래.
So just like that, when we study first and then meditate on it, if you really practice it, and as we continue our practices, then you really gain the realization. You really feel this change or the improvement, so-called, in yourself. Without really meditating, practicing it, it wouldn't happen.
다 담보처럼서 안에 또 많이 돼서 곰쇼와.
So I would like you to meditate on emptiness first.
또 많이 곰당에 딱 요라서 오면 가지 소소 나나지 요 말이 소소 사만지 요 말이 된데 섬스 디카라 셈바샤네레 지금 가세 데도 야 제로래 야도 투야 야 셈발라로 야 투용고 그래서.
So basically, meditation on emptiness, you start with thinking that all phenomena not exist the way we perceive them exist. And as we really meditate on that, our mind will wander off. And then you have to bring back your mind. And again, thinking that things do not exist the way we perceive them exist. And you keep practice on that.
테나나 단대 가라 미세가 동아지 나대베 아니 미참아 아니 라면을 타고 말해 삼로와.
And especially in this time, we're thinking all the sentient beings who are experiencing suffering are not inherited or not in nature of intrinsic nature, do not possess the intrinsic nature. Or on the other hand, all the sentient beings who are going through this pandemic, problem are devoid of intrinsic nature. They lack this inherited nature.
Okay, start now. 뭐야? 다 된대게 섬지도 동하다 타나 쩌마로 자왕 알아가 제고도 됐삼다. 다 때는 이제 곰스.
And then we meditate. These sentient beings, may all these sentient beings free from suffering. And you create this wish that they will be free from suffering.
Oh yeah. 다 도세 다 도세 곰자고 곰자 다 소소는 지금 뭐니 용화지 템바이나 아니 소소 샘라 펜바 젠지 샘라 펜바 너 곰자에다 남주 샘발 흘러 예비치 bakal 곰자고 그래.
So this is how we practice. We meditate regularly, and we meditate when we are peace. We were in peace when we are really calm, and as we continue this meditation, then the actual realization will come by.
아니 생아도 샘발 추대 bakal 곰자는 다시 용거 말다.
If we meditate during turmoil or emotional state, it wouldn't really have the same effect.
제가 배차중에다 맨날 맨날 중이잖아. 남주 샘발 흘려 이거 그 담보 야보 잠 맨날 따다 지르나 내 되네 고 네가 여와는 고 샘피 쇼고다 그 따다 쇼도 그러고 대치 바래.
Just like a shooting, when we practice shooting in a calm manner, in a peaceful manner, and we can really do great target. But when we shoot in our emotional state, turmoil, our result wouldn't be the same.
어디네 대야 다 드네로 곰두 곰잡나 다 가서 다 같이 가래나 지 곰잡나 고 전대 통으로 곰하잖아 전대 통고 말해.
And therefore, whatever we do, if we practice, if we meditate, then we attain the result. Without meditating, the result would be really hard to gain.
제다 난당가도 내가 그러잖아. 냠뇨고 걸려다. 냠뇨고도 다 곰자듯이 집어로 와.
When we talk about our job and career, we always say we need experience, right? And so for our purposes, our experiences come from meditation.
오케이. 다 드네다 오레스. 근데 다게 셰드는데 코션도 도와케요 말고 가인 오마주베 저제 마 가데 셰셰요다. 가진게 배자다 셰네 가데 셰셰요. 내가 대가도 배우면도 와.
So here comes the conclusion. If we just merely talking and teaching, I can go on and on by referring to the root text by Shantideva, and we can go on and on. But the result will be really limited.
제가 다 자서 가디나 곰테 잡다. 아니 이제 야보 곰바였나? 아니 되게 지 소소 샘라야. 간제 니제는 용어로 템 토바였나? 아니 간제 샘은 지원도 용어 맞는 샘은 지원도 말해.
So for compassion, or the great compassion, if we really practice, put this into practices as I described earlier and meditate on it, then eventually you will feel the progress, you will feel the experience. Without a meditation, we really cannot see any improvement.
제가 용어 대대변나 단단 가로서 변나 수수 가사, 수수 직샷사사, 수수 파만로, 수수 직 부지로 실라 직강이 되나 다른 거는 대동안들 차이가 가르쳐 수수 셈에 직원에 지금 남러랑도 왔어. 시행하도 셈제 삼아 셈제도 동화지나 트라버지나 셈을 초하게 내면도 제가 다 용어 도면 그냥 용어 토도 만들 제가 되는 거예요.
So what is like gaining the experience or not gaining the experience? It's just like that. When we think about compassion, when we think about people that we that are dear to us, and when we think about compassion and think about them, immediately we feel that experience, right, of the compassion to them. And then if we think about neutral people and think about the compassion, we wouldn't have the same feeling toward the neutral people like that we hold toward our dear one. So that's the differences between having the experiential experiences of compassion or not. So the difference is clear.
제가 다 드네 용어 지능도 소도고 다 수잡네.
So by putting this in practices, we have to generate this compassion to all sentient beings.
Okay, any questions? Yes.
Geshe, I'm trying to understand it. How is it then that contemplating that if we're observing suffering sentient beings and we think of them as not existing inherently, how does that, I don't really understand how that increases compassion, how that, I can't make the connection between understanding the emptiness of the individual and compassion.
대마를 가지. 돈이 또 배셔라 위마다 이제 휴치 뭐 좋게 저게 말 was. 뭐 저도 가로 저도 지.
this water 그러가나 체도. 심지어 정신이 뭐도가 아니라 사람 쉬고 인도 잠바. 디 심지어 정신이 뭐도 신에 인디 닝지패할 펜토도 소다.
되게 말이지. 제자 돈이 또 배셔라 때 여와이나 이제 배와 휴치게 셔도 말해.
We're not saying that when you have the deeper understanding about emptiness, it doesn't equal to a greater compassion.
이제 배나 단다 탄제로 제나 아니 오마 탄제베게 태와 전부는 배나 봐봐다 태미가 봐봐 집어지자 돈이 또 집어지자래서 이나 태메라 이제 요 말에 대절은 이제 뭐 요래 제가 또만이 또 셔럽되게 이제 제중께서 세우고 말했어.
We're not saying that the deeper understanding of emptiness equals to greater or lesser compassion. I give you one example. For the emptiness of Parasangika, as well as the emptiness of the Shuddhavaka, the hearers, for their understanding about emptiness, there's no differences. But for the compassion practices, there's a huge difference between the Mahayana and the Theravada. So we're not saying if you have a deeper level of understanding about emptiness, it will also equal a deeper level of compassion. We're not saying that. So, 양계수나.
그래, 그나 이제 첨부 다 그 가래 백이라 이제 첨부를 해. 그래 갑니다. 제가 대차려봐도 그 돈이 또 와서 대첨부 쳐서 되게 잘 말해.
And we also not saying by having this great compassion, you also gain a deeper level of emptiness experience. We are not saying that.
샤적의 샘지 스마이도 이제 첨부 차와래서.
So the great compassion is a compassion co-joined or led by the bodhicitta mind.
아이스크림 가면 제자 다 오늘 니제를 만들었으면도 니제를 만들었는데 오나 거기는 오다 샘체 데메토베 셔럽지 샘베 니제텔라 아니 미멜 미제라 그래서 곧 미타서 얼마도 니제 슈체 이렇게 저렇게 말해.
So when we talk about the three different types of compassion, they don't have any different level of compassion, different level of great compassion. All of them are part of the great compassion, but different type not meaning, rank, but it is simply different type, like a great compassion aimed at the sentient beings, great compassion aimed at the nature of the sentient being, which is devoid of intrinsic nature.
Okay, do you understand?
We're saying great compassion, observing the emptiness of sentient beings, right? For the third type of compassion.
This word somebody mimi 닝지디 닝지 첨부디 아니 디 동번이 다가소래
도마지 또 셔럽지 썸바.
Simba, yes, it's like a
conjoined
compassion aiming at the emptiness. Great compassion co-joined with the emptiness.
Okay.
이제는 아주 어찌기 그란데다 좋아인 거지. 진짜가.
Yep.
지난 아주 남기 뒤송 동안 동번이 또 왜 닝지 띵 서로 그래. 근데 손수지도 가 닝지네래.
그래도 시단도 거다 야야야로나도 로그를 와이나야. 샤적의 샘 요와지. 아니 돈이 아니 니제 요와지. 샤적의 샘 요와 돈이 또 만났다. 아니 강가 삽 로그를 봤어. 난 돈이 또 셔럽 주고 로그 말해.
So I asked Geshe a question following your question. We hear sometimes when you realize emptiness, your also compassion will become deeper. And so I put this question to Geshe. And Geshe said, yes, especially if you realize this emptiness, your compassion become better quality, of course. It has a strong effect on the compassion, but it doesn't say the realization of emptiness lead to compassion. Of course, our compassion, the quality of the compassion will be improved or better when you realize this emptiness. But there's a kind of a corresponding relationship, but it's not the relationship between the cause and the result.
제가 또만이 또 베셔도 고야 슈처 야간 로야 코 근데 말 가른 티시마 마르게 가린 세저로 되게 고 장점선도 니지 치모도 고야 반로 여러봤어.
And so we say that in Tibetan verb, a tu is a Tibetan cake, which really the major substances of the cake is the butter, saying the butter which produces a good quality of this cake. Likewise, when your emptiness, led by a bodhicitta mind, it becomes very powerful realization.
banana bread 심보에 왔다 마르케리로 한데 만들라 마시울로도
Yeah, we have the banana cake, yeah. And the reason banana cake is so good is because it also has a lot of butter in it.
제가 오마 탄지벨루라 아니 태와 섬게 파발라 돈유도 배 잡라 그래 대자 다 태와 침보 슈치엠제다데 아니 샤한점선 이제 거 가시는 거래
얘디 관도 있을 양계수로는 얘디 관도
알레레레 단다 오마 탄지벨루라 파바이나 또만이 또 배 잡 잘하시는 요 말에 다 원나 가르치는 제와나 샤한점선 이제서 뭐 고슈치 차원도 그래 봐.
So according to the Parasangika view, all the aryas are all the aryas realize emptiness. So there's no differences between the enlightened being and aryas regarding the realization of emptiness. But what really differs them is the bodhicitta mind or the compassion about.
제가 니제 선다 니스 메벨로 샤한점선 제선 남지 제스 아니 니제지 아니 다 니제가 있으면 돈주도 배 셔럽지 아니 가로 아니 샤한점선도 다 제선 파바가 조리해서 하는 용어로 봤어.
So it's also mentioned that when one Aryas, the practitioners who realize emptiness and also hold the bodhicitta mind, and that makes them the enlightened being, becoming the part of the bodhisattva.
Okay, it's a little bit clear.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, a little bit, not much. No, you have to think about it. You think about that. It's the most 제가 kind of 샤한점고 쌤다 이제 되게까지 되게 슈치해 온 거예요.
Shantideva 쌤?
샤한점고 쌤다 이제 얘기 아니 다 그 가시더라도 그 되게 거다 간다.
So the combination of bodhicitta mind and the emptiness, which produces this very powerful quality, the combination of them.
Okay, Sne.
Krishna, I had the same question as Jennifer,
Okay.
but I want to ask it just a little bit differently,
Okay.
which is, the first two descriptions of great compassion is easy to understand. Like you can really feel for sentient beings who are suffering from all kinds of problems. You can feel that they're suffering because of change and, all those things. But the third one, to link compassion with emptiness, like why is the first two not enough? Like what does the third one add?
제가 동반이 맞도나 가좀 고알을 줘야게. 동반이 맞도나 가지 이제 피 무슨 까와도 공부해나 아니야 고알 줘요 말에.
This is because without really meditating on emptiness, we cannot really liberate the sentient beings from samsara.
저도와 내주 샤제 샘라 컴제자 스비 싸워 줘보면 대체 땡데도 베탈라면 가도 가로 대가나. 람조는 뭐 치다라 다 삼부터 될래고 그러던다.
So this of course mentioned clearly by Lama Tsongkhapa in three principal paths, saying although you practice renunciation and bodhicitta mind, without really realizing emptiness, you still cannot, free yourself or free others from samsara. And therefore, it's really important to meditate on emptiness, which we have been studying quite a lot.
제가 되게 다다 지난이 저와다 되게 랜다 다다 포기는 거다.
And that verse will really answer your question about the importance of the third type of great compassion.
되게 랜드 레게돼. 되게 랜드 포기도 하시나 가로.
돌 따디 콘솔레 세시에게 찍 레르거든 저디나. 그래서 이제 닝지 첨부 권백을 닝지 첨부다 저와도 이제 닝지 첨부다 당고다 심지어 동네 저와도 검게 버려. 이번에 닝지 첨부다 미다분이 검제 야 닝지 첨부 배 주고 봐. 숨부터 닝지 첨부다 동분이 자는 검게 되잖아. 닝지 첨부도 되게 숨지 않은 거야. 근데 슈겨야 돼 닝지 첨부서 이내고 심지어는 진리야도 되게 되게 검게도 군요보자 타마담데 닝지 첨부다 네가 타마 저와이 없어.
야야 나 들으러 그래. 대지 봐 줬다.
So this is what I got from Geshe-la's teaching. The meditation on the three different types of great compassion. The first one is really the suffering nature of the sentient being. A second is the impermanent nature of the sentient being. Third is the devoid of intrinsic nature of the sentient beings, or the selflessness nature of the sentient beings. By really meditating with the compassion in combination of these three different natures, it's really telling us the importance of relating the great compassion to different nature of the sentient beings. And when you do that, then as Geshe-la mentioned, it really combines our great compassion to this different nature, not separating great compassion to the selfless nature, but really combining, I think they are trying to combine the great compassion practice to the different nature, the suffering nature, to the impermanent nature, to the selfless nature, and to really try to cultivate this relationship.
How's that?
That makes sense, Geshe-la, because it's almost like saying, unless you truly believe that sentient beings can have true cessation, you don't have the confidence to help them.
Yes.
Yep. Good understand. Thank you, Geshe.
Oh,
Thank you for Geshe.
No.
Okay. 제가 다 간제 따쳐도 하고서 그레이트 컴패션을 간제지 임바. 아니 텔라치 다 나한테 이해만으로 만들어 간제 하고서 와.
So now you really got this. What is the meaning of great compassion? What are the different types of great compassion? So did you get that?
I think Amy has a question, Tenzala.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I don't see Amy. Sure, please go ahead.
Okay.
Hi, Amy.
I was listening to Sneha's answer, and I think it's really interesting. But I wanted what came into my mind was, if with the third type, the only way to truly rid ourselves of the karma that causes the suffering would be with the third type. Am I correct in that?
Geshe-la tanda kongo snaegi kualinda da jabacha sons. Kanda jige nganja simje dige mune khoane chego yuna ani mingmi ginji chimbo de beke chimbo de shas. 그래서 미미기 인지 첨부 되게 당한도 지게 레드 녀모니 세르두스.
Yeah.
Yes.
어디 다르.
Yes, exactly. You got the point.
그래서 나가도 고와 고대도 다운들어 봐. 다운들 때마다 댄들어 봐. 댄즈 매워서 받았나? 아니 컨콜 좋다고 말더라. 데메 토벨로 어떻게 댄즈 고 매워서 셔 가지고. 또냐 샤주고 샘그 데메 댄즈 매워서 도고 말해.
Yes, this is precisely because we are bound in samsara from our self-grasping mind. And when we use the emptiness, really to free ourselves from the self-grasping mind. Then we attain, liberate ourselves from samsara. Therefore, the importance about the emptiness for freeing sentient beings from the samsara. So,
okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
제자 안에 가시라고. Okay, yeah, like that. Any other questions?
sure.
So I would say that the compassion and the wisdom complement one another to enhance our bodhicitta nature, and that by meditating on both wisdom and compassion, it gives us the experience to practice bodhicitta.
가르쳐서
니실라 센송에
야고 고마스다.
콩그스는 아주 탑시 송지치야디 개침버자 송고도 우스키실라 그래 디나냐. 그래서 말아서 탑시 송지치제 냠니 제비는 아니特别싫어야 좋아져. 싫어 그特别좋아 제비는 하는 아주지 가수로 상계 고반 토벨이야. 누구디 서브도 어떻게 송구여로 베스.
뭐도 대 남주 다 대리동에 대고자도 미세 시작을 마셔다데 고요래.
Yes, this is how it should be. I didn't really go through great detail about that, but this is where the direction is.
가제 안에 지금 섬제는 라지 트베 딱 가제 돈요도 베샤라 매바는 코발을 좋다고요 말해. 안에 단다 가르쳐로. 샹제고 세면나 가제 태화 좀 라라야 좀 좋다고요 말해.
So, in principle, if we do not attain the realization of emptiness, we will not be able to free ourselves from samsara, right?
Right.
Second point is, without having bodhicitta mind, we wouldn't be belonging to the Mahayana tradition.
제대 특권이 냠도 그야데 빼내가 전부 자기거래.
Therefore, really practicing both the emptiness and bodhicitta mind is really important for attaining full enlightenment.
오케이. 오케이. 다 되네. 지나서 아니 저바들이나 쇼갈 제네 산이야 계셔 산이 가서 야요와.
So if you have any questions, please write them down and bring them tomorrow. We have a session tomorrow. We can go over them again.
아니 단다 곰 잡다베다 니제 숨 곰다 대창아서 곰다메 강갈라 엑사트 체다 테스 곰다와.
So please go ahead and practice the great compassion meditation by applying these three different types of a great compassion.
제자랑도 곰자데 빼면서 내가 전부 자기서 다 대원이 가지 용화토마도 곰자마자라래요 서래.
So meditation is very important. Whether we attain experience is to rely on our meditation.
Okay. Okay, then we stop here. It's 8 o'clock.
Yes.